Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lavanya Fakri, and I will be presenting on the topic activation analysis. The following are the contents that I will be discussing in today's presentation. Let us start with activation analysis. Basically, activation analysis, ma'am,
Yes,
मैम आप म्यूट करेंगे क्या बहुत बैकग्राउंड
हाँ ठीक है।
नॉइज हो रहा है थैंक यू activation analysis is basically an analytical method to determine the amount of trace elements in a bulk sample. So it helps us to understand the qualitative as well as the quantitative composition of any complex sample. Okay, so in activation analysis, we have neutron activation analysis, which is by far the best technique to use, and it is the most common technique also. It is known as NAA. So, how does activation analysis actually work? This is a rough idea to understand how activation analysis work. Let us say we have a sample. I'm explaining from the diagram over here. Let us say we have a sample that consists of some triangles and some circles. Now, I am irradiating this sample with some neutrons. Now, due to this irradiation, my neutron is going to bombard on my particles and it is going to excite them, and as a result of which some of them are turning black. This is going to represent the radioactive particles in the sample. Now these radioactive particles individually, they are emitting my gamma rays. This gamma ray is basically used to understand, as it is different for each element, and we can get an idea of the quality of the element in that sample, and the amount of gamma ray radiated is proportional to the amount of element present, so we can get an idea of the quantity also. The main limitation of this is that it requires a really strong radiation source, and which is sometimes harmful also. So that's one of the most important and main limitation of this. So now let us understand neutron activation analysis. Basically, neutron activation analysis is a sensitive multi-element analytical technique which is used for both, as I said, qualitative and quantitative analysis of major, minor, trace, and even rare elements. This was actually discovered by two of these scientists, actually accidentally, by Hefsey and Levy. They were actually discovering or studying some of the rare elements present in the earth by irradiating them with some strong radioactive source, and they ended up finding out that this could be a technique to understand the elements present in the sample. So there are two basic principles for my neutron activation analysis, NAA. One is my prompt gamma ray neutron activation analysis, where I take my measurements in between my radiation, that means during my radiation. And the second is my delayed gamma ray neutron activation analysis, where my radiation measurements happen after the whole decay takes place. So I'll explain both of them individually in the later slides. Basically, delayed gamma ray neutron activation analysis is the most common technique to use, and we mostly use that itself. So now let us understand the idea for neutron activation analysis. The basic idea for the working of neutron activation analysis starts when a small amount of sample and standard are irradiated in a reactor that is known as my neutron flux. So now neutrons are generated that have low kinetic energy comparatively. That is, it will have somewhere around even lesser than zero point 0.5 electron volts, and we will call these neutrons as like thermal neutrons. Now, the neutrons generated that have low kinetic energy comparatively will will radiate, and then it will bombard my sample particles. So once we radiate into the nucleus, the thermal neutron will start to interact with the target nucleus, and the interaction will be a non-elastic collision. So as we know, non-elastic collisions are basically where there is a loss of kinetic energy after the collision, right? So what happens in this is that the compound that is in the nucleus which is formed, it excites itself and reaches an excitation state. Now, this excitation energy is due to the binding energy of the thermal neutron and my target nucleus because of that bombardment that took place, as a result of which they are getting excited. Now, the excited state is like very temporary. They are just going to stay there for a very small amount of time, somewhere around 10 raised to the power minus 12 or minus 9 seconds only. And after that, they will immediately start to de-excite. So here we obtain radioactive nucleus, which is a more stable configuration. So now this is the basic idea for neutron activation analysis. After this, how it translates into my gamma emission and delayed emission, that is what we are going to see. But before that, let us just get a brief idea of the whole of the entire thing together. Okay, so in short, if I want to say what is happening to my sample, first my neutrons are attacking the sample, so it's going to react and interact with the sample nucleus. After that, inside, so my known knowledge is that inside the nucleus I have some protons and I have some neutrons together, right? So after receiving the neutrons, it enters into the excited state. The nucleus will enter into the excited state. This will be known as my compound nucleus. Now, as I told earlier, my compound nucleus stays for a very short amount of time. The excited nucleus, it will immediately de-excite and it will decay very fast. So the time of excitation is only for about 10 raised to the power minus 12 to minus 10 seconds. Now, in this transition, it emits some gamma radiation. So these are known as my prompt gamma radiation. And these gamma radiation will have very high energy range, somewhere around 11 mega electron volt. Now, after this, the nucleus can be stable or radioactive one. Now, if the nucleus, let's say it is a radioactive nucleus, then what happens is that usually the beta particles are emitted first, and then slowly after the beta particles, my gamma particles will start to get emitted. After this because of the delay in the gamma particles, this is known as delayed gamma radiation, and overall I call this as my delayed gamma ray neutron activation analysis. That is basically DNAA also you can call it. Now over here, one second. Okay. Over here, this nucleus can be stable or radioactive. So we saw that if it is radioactive, then I will get my DNAA. But what if it's stable? So if it is stable, I will get my prompt gamma radiation. So when I was talking about prompt gamma radiation, I told that we can get the measurements during the radiation, right? So that is why this prompt gamma radiation process is in between, and we can get the measurements from here itself. While for decay gamma radiation, the process has to come to a completion. The decay has to be completed. That is why we know we call it as delayed gamma ray neutron activation analysis. So now let us talk about prompt gamma ray neutron activation analysis. In this, what happens is that this is going to use prompt gamma rays, as I showed in the previous slide, that are emitted from the compound nucleus. So in this method, my measurements are a little bit different because gamma radiation is detected during the neutron activation analysis, that is in between, and it brings lower sensitivity also with respect to my DNAA. But the advantage in this technique is that it is used for typical elements that are determined that will have very low atomic numbers. So we can understand how we are determining the quality as well as the quantity of my element that is present in my sample or my source. Now let us talk about the applications of neutron activation analysis. First off, it's used in geology to understand the age and the elements present in the Earth's crust, even if they are in very trace amounts. Second up, we use them in forensic science department to track the amount of arsenic that can be detected in the hair if a person is poisoned to death. And the very common use of it is that we use it to detect the elements with lower atomic numbers, basically carbon, hydrogen, even nitrogen, boron, etc. Next is next is my fast neutron activation analysis. Now this is other type of my activation analysis. Previously, whatever neutron activation analysis we have covered, they were instrumental, and this is fast neutron activation analysis. So in this technique is going to help us to understand or determine the elements where thermal neutron activation analysis cannot be used. So we know thermal neutrons are those that are those neutrons that are produced after the bombardment, and they have very low kinetic energy also. So those elements that cannot be measured by neutron and gamma reactions or neutron and gamma radiations, there we use fast neutron activation analysis, because here we can supply them neutron alpha or neutron proton kind of reaction. Now here the detection limits are much higher. That means we are considering them in milligrams rather than micrograms as compared to the previous neutron activation analysis. The experimental setup is pretty basic. We have an accelerator, a cooling and a vacuum unity. We have power supply and remote control console. The process of fast neutron activation analysis happens with the deuterium gas, which is passed through a palladium tube into an ion source. So now the ion source are generated the ion sources that are generated are generated with the help of a penning ion source. Basically, this is what a penning ion source looks like. It's nothing but just an ion source that works to establish high voltage and low pressure. So finally, its work is to discharge ions basically. So ions are generated and accelerated, and the range should be of an around 190 volts to the target, and the target is now isolated from the rest of the accelerator tube, and all of this setup is done and it is kept in vacuum only. So now let us say that we are using a cosmetic sample, some kind of cosmetic powder, or some kind of cosmetic sample for detection. So let's take about 2 gram of our cosmetic sample, and we are weighing it and we are pressing it nicely under pressure, and we are placing it into polyethylene capsules. Now these capsules, we are giving them a diameter of 13 millimeters and a height of 8 millimeters. So these capsules are fully filled to avoid any loss of materials during activation process and as well as the transfer process. Now the samples are irradiated again for like 300 seconds over here, and these are finally going to be transferred to a pneumatic system. So basically, a pneumatic system is nothing but some kind of automatic, some kind of automated compressed airtight system. We can call it over here. So now a major problem over here is we face is that the fast neutrons, they disturb the neighboring isotopes, and they may produce these disturbed neighboring isotopes to give some kind of radiation for some radionuclide, like through these interactions. So that is one of the disadvantages for fast neutron activation analysis. Basically, if we compare instrument neutron activation analysis, that is my previous gone cases, that is INAA. To my fast neutron activation analysis, we'll see that INAA is a very classical technique and it cannot be replaced. But yes, sometimes if fast neutron activation analysis does give us some benefits, because we are going to use it where we do not have access for thermal neutrons. So there we can use fast neutron activation analysis. Next is radiochemical methods in activation analysis. So basically, this is a method for detection of trace elements based on the amount of indicators separated chemically from a neutron activated sample. So previously, unlike in our instrumental neutron activation analysis, that is my INAA, the instrument neutron, what is it's a destructive technique, right? But unlike over there, we have radiochemical method to be non-destructive, and it is also less expensive as well. So that gives us a plus point or a more upper hand to use this technique. Now basically we're going to talk about two techniques under this, that is radiometric analysis and isotope dilution. So in radiometric analysis, this technique is done with a liquid scintillation counter. So as we know, scintillation detection basically refers to the light detection. That is, it detects the number of light particles, right? So the light is produced when radioactive isotopes emit particles that result in excitation of the fluoromolecules, and hence they end up emitting light. Now, this emitted light is now detected using a photomultiplier tube, which basically multiplies the radiation, intensifies it, and it's then converted into counts or disintegrations. So we can mark them, or we can unify them in CPM, that is counts per minute, or DPM, that is disintegrations per minute. Next up, we have isotope dilution analysis. So in this method, what happens is that we add some known amount of isotopically enriched substance to the sample that needs to be analyzed. So as we know that isotopes are basic elements that have same atomic number, but they have different mass numbers. So due to the mixing of this isotopic standard with the sample, it results in the dilution of the standard, and therefore we call it as isotopic dilution method. Okay, these are my references, and these are the multiple choice questions. The major advantage to this technique, what is the technique that has the upper hand, in which it provides a non-destructive method for identifying and quantifying trace elements? So it's neutron activation analysis. And out of the following, which is not a type of radiation? So it is delta rays.